year to show that, but this was in May against Minnesota. So here's the rubber. It's not a great clear picture, but here's the rubber, and his toe is right on the end of this rubber right here. Here's where he is. So one of the things you start to look at from a coaching standpoint is a pitcher's landing in his direction towards home plate. Go ahead and if you can stop it at release. I mean at foot contact. Sorry. One more click. So at foot contact, number one, you can see where his landing is. His landing is slightly closed. So if you drew a straight line from his back toe, it would line up to here. His landing, if you draw a line from here, he's actually lined up right about where Kadyr's front toe is. You can see at foot contact where his arm position is, which is ideal. He's right in here. This is black or white. When I say black or white, you're either here or you're not at foot contact. If you're somewhere down in here, the pitchers that have been injured, some famous ones which I won't get into, you stop the film at foot contact, they're down in here. What does that mean? You're late. And if you're late, you're going to put tremendous amount of strain on your elbow and shoulder. So he's in good position here, but his direction, and this was something we questioned in spring training, but we made so many other adjustments with him, we wanted to let it see if it played itself out. We didn't want to totally make wholesale changes. Okay, so he's trying to throw this pitch down and away. Okay, go ahead, Bob. And you can see this ends up almost on the other side of the plate, not about the inside corner up in here, where he's catching the ball. Because he really struggles with this landing to get here. It's one of the things that you watch. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is the Pitch FX report. So the biomechanical analysis has to do with injury prevention and optimizing performance. But the Pitch FX is data. And it's one of my favorite quotes. I still don't know who the author is. Maybe someone can tell me. In God we trust, all others must have data. So when you take a look at where his release point is from that side of the rubber, it's lined up literally right in that part of the batter's box. It's a real struggle for him to get over here. Number two, when it relates to performance, from a coaching standpoint and from a hitting standpoint, this pitch out of his hand starts out of the strike zone and it's trying to enter into the strike zone. So it's actually coming out of his hand, out of the strike zone, trying to enter into the strike zone. What makes premier hitters, well, I'm going to take a right-hand hitter with a right-hand pitcher. Hitters like the ball going away from them. They don't like the ball coming towards them. So when a hitter has to make a decision, which is a split-second decision, when he sees the ball out of his hand coming in towards the strike zone, it's coming from strike the ball, which means that this pitch has to get a lot of the plate. You look at the premier pitching in the game, their pitches finish to the edges. His pitches have to get out, so when you look at his breaking ball as well, so his pitch is starting out of the strike zone, so for him to throw a breaking ball, the further over he goes this way, which he throws it down and into a lefty, or down and away to a righty, the further it goes this way from this angle, the more horizontal it gets. It loses depth. And depth is what makes good pitching. Because the two premier factors in good pitching are swings and misses and ground balls. Those are the two bottom lines. So when you look at good pitching and you look at all the stats that you look at, you find out the guys who are the best. You look at the top three pitchers that you had mentioned, they're all dominant swing and miss guys and or ground ball guys. Okay, so now we made this adjustment. Let's go into September. This was against the Giants in September. This was Buster Posey's at bat. Absolutely phenomenal at bat. Go ahead and start it right from the beginning, Bo, before we start. Yeah. It's set. This was a 10-pitch at bat. And because we had young catchers and young pitchers, I was actually calling every pitch from the dugout. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, go back one more time, Bo. When he's in a set position. Okay, you can't. It's not a clear picture. Here's the end of the rubber where he was before. The end of the rubber now is here. He actually only has half his foot in contact with the rubber. So we slid him all the way over on the other side of the rubber. One of the questions we asked Dr. Andrews years ago from a biomechanical standpoint, do we change the landing or do we change the direction? And he didn't even blink an eye. He said, change the direction. Slide him over as far on the rubber because of the kinetic chain. So from here, all the way on the other side of the rubber, so now stop it at foot contact. Well, one more clip. All right, so his arm's in great position. At foot contact now, again, it's not a great angle. But if you draw a line now from this back toe, from the center field angle, this is actually drawn right through here. So now he's trying to go down and away. Go ahead, Bob. And he's able to get to that pitch. Now show his release point, Bob. Bo knows. So you can see, just from sliding over on the other side of the rubber, what a huge difference this actually made. This ball now is coming out of his hand in the strike zone and now going to the edges, which means the hitter has to make he has to make a decision quicker than he has to when it's coming from out of the strike zone into the strike zone. A huge significance. So this data point right here clearly shows why the performance level totally changed. So you want to go play those at bats, and then we'll show the comparison. So a couple of the major factors, again, when you look at this at bat, I mean, again, the critical at bat, it is the fact that when you look at swings and misses and ground balls are the two major factors of evaluating pitching. After we moved him over on the other side of the rubber with the same amount of innings, pre-All-Star break, his ERA was 3.12. Post-All-Star break, he went to 1.997. With a 5%, this is amazing, a 5% increase of swings and misses in the strike zone. 5%, that is absolutely statistically huge when you take a look at those kind of adjustments. And it really simply just came from literally making that kind of adjustment, and now this data clearly proves. So when you look at premier pitching and you see the depth on that side of the plate again with his breaking ball, so when you see the premier pitching in the game, what you see is pitches start in the strike zone out of their hand from 60 feet, and they're working to the edges. Now we'll look at the comparison of the two release points if we can, side by side. So you can see going back and forth what a huge difference this made simply from sliding him over on the other side of the rubber from a performance standpoint. Now, we've used many of the other tools when you look at the hitter-pitcher matchups and whatnot. You know, this happens to be just one small, tool in that toolbox, but I can only tell you that being part of this team is a true honor and privilege. I mean, last year I was really working for Milwaukee, and now I'm working for the mayor of New York. I mean, it's, right?
Me too.
And with a team like this, and what's so exciting, this is only the ground floor. We're only scratching the surface right now. And I think what's going to happen is you see as this year unfolds, there's going to be so much greater awareness of how you can utilize this data and truly make a difference. So you can, when you're making your trades and your fantasy teams, we're going to have some other reports on there as well that is going to clearly show why this guy's on track, or why this guy's really struggling, or why he's off track. And it becomes not only just the data itself of historical data, but data that becomes predictive analysis.